just look at me, not the camera.
All right. I grew up in Billings, Montana, and I stayed there until I graduated. I wasn't quite ready to move on to college after my senior year of high school. I wanted a little bit of a break. So I stayed home and worked for a semester. I had met my ex-husband, Jeff, my senior year in high school, and we dated throughout most of that year. We met at an old folks' home. I always joked around, we met where we were going to end up at some point. I served as a waitress, and he was in the kitchen washing dishes. So he went into the military right after school. I went to BYU, Idaho for a semester, which was Rick's back then. And I only had a semester of college, but that decision to not finish school would have a really big impact later in my life. So we got married and we moved to Sacramento, California. Jeff was based at McClellan Air Force Base, and that's where we had our first daughter, Jessica. We lived there for a few years, and then we moved up to the Pacific Northwest and spent some time in Portland, Oregon, and that's where our second daughter, Ashton, was born. And then we moved to Vancouver, Washington, where we added our little caboose on the end, which is my son, Ethan. And we were probably up there for about 8 years. I loved being a mother. I was able to be a stay-at-home mom. I was dealing with some mental health issues at the time from some medical situations that the doctors just couldn't really seem to get a grasp on. And so there were some things that I was struggling with that had an impact on my life in some negative ways, and an impact on my marriage to degrees. And so we moved back to Idaho to be closer to the family. We were there for a couple of years, and then we moved to Stansbury Park in Utah, where I've lived for about the last 15 years. So about 10 years ago, I unexpectedly got divorced and found myself as a single mother. And because I hadn't finished my education beyond that first semester at college, I knew I wanted to go back to school. I always knew that if I went back to school, I would want to teach. So I'm a 9th grade English teacher right now. I had remarried at this point. I met Scott online, and I was finishing my semester of student teaching the year that we got married. I realized there was nothing anymore that I had to do there was nothing for myself that I did. And so I made my first loaf of soap. I call it my loaf of soap, and I was hooked. And I have to say, I was really, really proud of my first loaf of soap that I made. It turned out beautifully, and I was excited about what I had done and what I had created, and I wanted to learn and do more. So it was a learning curve, but I'm kind of proud to say that I didn't have to throw too many things out along the way, although I look back over the last few years and see how far I've come with it. In addition to bars of soap, I've included whipped soap, there's sugar scrubs, there's lotion bars, clay masks. And I find as I start implementing one thing, I'm excited to look at what else I can include. Some days when I come home from my day job, and I feel obligated to make soap sometimes in product because I need to, but when I get everything out and get going on it, it re-energizes me, and the passion kicks in, and I get excited again about what I'm creating. I'm Kristin Mortensen, and I'm the creator and founder of Maple Spring Soap Company.
Yay!
Oh, that's hard. You just feel like you're rambling and going on and don't know if anything you're saying is relevant.